This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning and welcome back to the session. Let me start today's session with something called variable, okay? The basics of variable, or rather than calling it as a variable, let me call it as a data member. Just observe here. What do you mean by data member? What do you mean by data member? Think about it. Data member is pretty simple. Anything which stores the data, that's called a data member. It basically represents a data, correct? Simple example, I have a data member which is storing a data called 33, another data member which is storing a data called true, another one something it's storing a data called 701.448, let's say. These are all basically data members, correct? Now there are two types of data members, okay? The first one is called constant. The second one is called variable, which we already know. What do you mean by constant and what do you mean by variable? Pretty simple. If your data changes, varies, it's called variable. If your data does not change, then it is called constant. All right. So how do you declare the constant here? If we declare the constant, I just call it right. How do you declare a constant? I declare a constant by making the data member as final, right? By making the data member as final. How do you make it as variable? By making it as non-final. So anything which is non-final is called as variable. Anything which is final is called as constant. Now, moving ahead, just an example for this. When I say final integer I equal to 33. So it means to say this data member is constant because it is final. Similarly, anything which is non-final is just like this. Integer I equal to 11. So what I mean to say out of this is here I is the data. We can change the data. Later I can say I equal to 22, I equal to 40. I can keep changing the data, right? I equal to 9. I can keep on changing this data, so on. So that's called variable because the data is getting varied. Data is getting changed here, right? So my data is getting changed here. Right? But here in the first case, it's not getting changed because it is final. Observe it. It's final, hence it is not changing, right? That's cool. Now let's talk about the final. I have a question. For that, you guys have to answer, okay? Now question is this. What are the different ways of, listen to me carefully, what are the different ways, of initializing a constant, nothing but final data member? What are the different ways of initializing? You know initialization, that is assigning a data, is called initializing, right? Initializing a final data member. What are the different ways of initializing a final data member? Okay. One second, please. I just removed Suresh Panda. He was really creating the problem for us. Okay, now coming back to the question, what are the different ways of initializing a final data member? Answer me. So I have a final data member. How are you going to initialize them? I want you guys to answer in the chat box. Yeah, Kumar Pratyush is answering at the time of declaration. That's cool. Next. Oh, Shubham has already answered at the time of declaration. Second one is by using constructor. Third one is by using non-static block. I think he has attended my previous session, the one which I took just now. Correct, no, Shubham? So Rahul is saying that at the time of declaration, correct? Come on, come on, come on, others, please be active. Ping me. What are the different ways? By reference, Mukul Sharma. 100% wrong. Mukul Sharma wrong. NM, someone by name NM is saying that this dot variable name. Question, where are you going to use that this dot variable name, Mr. NM? Mr. or Mrs. I don't know. NM, where are you going to use that? Where are you going to write that? Tom Cruise is mentioning inside static block. Wrong. Wrong. Tom Cruise. Maki Reddy at the time of declaration and constructor. Someone is mentioning it in the method. Wrong. Mukul Sharma wrong. Sanjeev correct inside an instance block. Okay. Inside static block, no, wrong. Inside static block, no, wrong. Fine, enough. Stop messaging, stop messaging, stop messaging. Okay. Super. Good, good, good participation. Now I will answer your questions. Okay. So listen to me carefully. There are three ways of initializing an instance variable. Listen to me carefully. There are three ways. The first one is at the time of declaration, right? At the time of declaration. It's very simple. I will explain each and every possible ways in through the methods. I mean through the code. I'll explain that by using Eclipse. Huh? The first is at the time of declaration. So we are going to now initialize them at the time of declaration. Second one, by using constructor. We can initialize by using constructor. The third one, right, by using something called instance block. Very important. It's called instance block. Instance block is also called as non-static block. Okay, non-static block. Few students are answering like using static block. No, wrong. Using static block, that's not possible. This is by using something called non-static block. Hold on. These are all the three different ways. Got it? Are you able to hear me now? You guys are able to hear me? Please message yes if you are able to hear me. Yeah, okay, thank you. Now I shall continue explaining each and everything. Okay, so probably today's discussion is not going to be interface part, something which is required to talk about interface. Okay, this whatever I'm teaching right now is really required for interface. Okay, so that's why I'm explaining this. Once you understand it, then later I'll connect this into interface, right? So again, I'll repeat, I'm not going to talk anything about interface in today's concept. I'm going to talk about this final data member. Observe, what's the meaning of at the time of declaration? So I create a new Java project called as final data or constant, okay, constant project. Constant project, my project name only constant. Okay, so what do I do here is I'm going to declare a class, trick class name is trick. Okay, in the class name trick, so let me declare a final data member. Okay, final integer I, final integer I. So if you closely observe this, we are getting a compilation error here, right? So what could be the reason? Why are we getting a compilation error here? Pretty simple, final data member must be initialized. I'll repeat, the final data member must be initialized. How? Like this. This is first way of initializing. 33. So final data member must be initialized. I have initialized. So this is called initialization. Initialization at the time of declaration, right? So I'm declaring a final data member here. Observe, I'm creating a variable, declaring a variable, and I'm initializing at the time of this declaration itself. All right. This is the first one. The second one is this. Let's say I have a final k equal to okay, fine, final integer k, final integer k. Okay, it can be integer, double string, or anything. Okay, so okay, let me, for better understanding, I'm going to make it as k, and again it's giving you an error because we are not initializing it. All right, so rather what I'm going to do here is I'll create a constructor called trick as a class name, and the constructor name must be same, right? This is going to be my constructor, right? Class name is trick and its constructor name is also trick. I'm going to initialize the k to something, all right? Something, some value. Okay, this is the second way of initialization. The first one is at the time of declaration. The second one is using constructor. Okay, constructor. Someone was answering in the chat window saying that this dot k, right, like by using this keyword. The question is whether you use this keyword or not. It depends on variable shadowing, right? You can directly initialize by the variable name, or you can also initialize by using this keyword. So very important here is it's not the fact that whether we are using this keyword or not, but rather what we need to concentrate is where are we initializing, right? We are initializing this inside the constructor. This is the second way of doing it. The first one is by at the time of declaration. The second one is by using constructor, and the third one is going to be like this. For example, string name. I have not initialized it, and it's an instance variable. Okay, I've not initialized it. So now what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to initialize this. So I initialize this either by using directly the name or by using this dot name. All right, I've initialized it into shishira. It can be just the name or it can be this dot name. It's up to us. All right, either this dot name or just directly the name. So this is the third way of initializing. Please observe this is an instance block, nothing but a non-static block. By chance, if your block is static, so you got an error. Let's understand why it's going to give an error when I try to access inside the static block. But before that, let us complete this concept. So these are all the three different ways of initialization. Are you clear now? Right? So observe here. First one is at the time of declaration. Done. We have learned it, right? It's done. The second one, what are the second one? By using the constructor. This is the constructor. All right. It can be a default constructor, zero param constructor, a parameterized constructor, anything, right? Second one is done. The third one is by using instance or non-static block. So that's done. This is an instance block or a non-static block, right? So you have to understand it. There is one condition in case of whenever we create a constant, okay? Whenever we create a constant, the simple one condition is this. So, okay. What is this? It must be, okay? It must be initialized. It must be initialized. It means who? A final, okay? Final. A non-static final, better word is a final, which is non-static final. A non-static, a final data member. There is a huge difference between static final data member and non-static data member. Okay, first let me explain that also probably. Then I'll go to this statement. Okay, there are two things. Okay, listen now. One is just like this: final integer I equal to 10, right? Another one is static final integer k equal to 33, right? If you observe the first one, this is non-static. Okay, non-static, it's also called as instance, non-static or instance. This is called as static. This is called as static. Static means class. What do you mean by static means class? It's pretty simple. This is a data, right? We call the first data as instance data member, okay? Instance data member. We call it as instance, right? I write it in this color. Instance data member. Instance data member. And here, this is called class data member. All right. This is called class data member. Observe, these are all the two things. Anyhow, I'll come back to this and we're going to discuss in detail about these two things. But firstly, right now, I'm discussing only about this part. What is that? Non-static, this one, okay? This is a non-static final data member, okay? I'm talking about this now. So when I talk about non-static data member, non-static final or non-static final data member, there are three ways of initialization. That is at the time of declaration and at the time of constructor creation or using the constructor. Third one is by using the block. Okay. So about this non-static, right? Non-static comma non-static comma final data member, non-static final data member, non-static final data member has to be initialized, has to be initialized, has to be initialized at the time of object creation. All right, this is something very important, has to be initialized at the time of object creation. What do you mean by this? Let's understand in depth of what is the meaning of this, okay? It is important, don't neglect that thinking it's very easy. No, it's very important, okay? You have to understand it. Let me explain thoroughly in detail. Have patience. Now imagine that I have a class called house. I have a class called house. So I create a variable here in this class, which is non-static, okay? Non-static. And I make it as final there, okay? I'm going to make it as final, okay? Let me come back to that final. Just be even before creation of final, I'll just create only non-static, okay? For example, integer number of rooms equal to 3. Please observe. Number of rooms equal to 3. I have created a class with the variable called number of rooms equal to 3. So can I call it as non-static? Very important. This is non-static in nature. Non-static is also called as instance. Hence, this variable is called as instance variable. This variable is called as instance variable. This variable is called instance variable because it is non-static in nature. So what is the meaning of instance variable? Observe the keyword instance. When I call it as instance variable, it's actually the meaning of instance is object. So we also call it as object variable. So object variable means a variable which is created while creation of object. A variable which is created while creation of object. So such variable is called as instance variable, nothing but object variable. All right. So this variable is going to be created at the time of object creation. I hope you understood now. So I have a variable here. Now this variable, so what is the meaning of a class? The meaning of a class is that it's a blueprint or a master copy. It's a blueprint, right? Blueprint or idea. Now it's in idea state. If you remember this example, which I took long back, while in your class, I used to explain this. This is not a real house. This is only the model of the house. This is only the house plan. This house plan is technically called as a class. Understand it? This house plan is technically called as a class, but this is not a real house. This is only a plan. All right. This plan is what I have created here in the form of class. Okay, this is there in the form of class. So this is only house plan, but this is not a real house. So now I'm going to create. Now if someone asks you, you have only the plan, but you don't have actually, you have not actually created the house. It means to say this variable is not created. This variable is not created. This variable called instance variable is created in the memory. A memory is allocated for this variable only when we create an object. Only when we create an object. So let us create an object for this class. Right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create an object for this class. How I create an object like this, right? House. House h1 equal to new house. It means to say, I have lay this Sushrita Panda. Do you have common sense? I terminated you from this group. Again, you're joining and you're creating nonsense. Please mute your microphone. You want to attend this session? Please mute your microphone. Array, are not muting means what? See, guys, if you distract me from the flow, okay, again I'll have to start from the flow. When I'm teaching here, okay, I imagine and teach, okay? I imagine and teach. Please understand. In front of me, I have only my laptop. I don't have students. So I need to visualize, that the imagination should come to my mind and I should think like a student and I should start teaching. If you distract me in between, I lose the focus and I deviate from this example, right? Now, again, I have to remember this example. Hope you understand. I'm trying my level best to make you understand with a simple concepts, okay? Hmm? Now, I have a class. Class means a blueprint or an idea, but this is not a real house, okay? This is not a real house. This is not a real house. It's only a model of the house or a blueprint or an idea of the house, okay? So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a real house. Nothing but I created an object using this class. So now H1 is a reference which starts referring. So in the heap memory, one object is created. This is what the fundamentals we have seen long back, right? One object gets created and object of which class? Object of house class gets created now, right? So one object of this house class is created, right? Where this is created? This is created in the heap memory. This is created in the heap area. All right. So now okay, now carefully observe. When I create this object at this time, an instance variable called number of room. Now it is created in the memory, number of room equal to 3. right? A variable is created now. It means to say this variable is created in the memory. It got life. This got life. Why this? What is the who is the reason for giving the life of this variable? My object is the reason, right? This object is the reason for giving the life to this variable. So object is nothing but instance. That's why we call it as instance variable. Because of this instance, my variable got the life. Are you clear now? This is extremely important. Okay, fine. So now how many copies created? One copy is created. What's the value? 3. Are you clear now? So similarly, I'm going to create one more object like house, house, h2 equal to new house. So I have created one more object. I have created one more object, right? H2 is a reference, which is referring to an object which is there in the heap memory. One more object of house class is created, right? And now one more copy of this variable is created, that is number of rooms equal to 3. Are you clear now? So what we are supposed to understand out of this, a variable is created, nothing but a non-static variable. Okay, instance variable means what? A non-static variable. This non-static variable is created in the heap memory inside an object when an object gets created. So by chance, if I make it as final, what is the meaning? This has become a constant. Now this is called a non-static final data member. I'm not using the word called variable because variable means which varies, but here it's not going to vary. That's why I'm using the word called a data member. So this is called a non-static final data member. So hence this must be initialized at the time of creation of object. So now here I have already initialized, hence the value is going to be initialized to 3, assuming that it is final. And by chance, if I'm not doing it, what is the second way of doing it? My heap memory continues here. This is going to be heap area, okay? A big, very big heap area. So now, what are the different ways of object creation now? I create a same old class called as house, right? So now I'm going to create this variable integer number of rooms, but I'm not going to initialize this, okay? And I make it as final. What is the meaning of final? Constant. Now the second one is by using the constructor. Now I create a constructor. This is the starting of the class. This is the end of the class. This is the starting of the constructor, end of the constructor. Okay. Here I just say integer I, a parameter. Okay. So I'm going to initialize this number of rooms equal to, right? Number of rooms equal to I. What I'll do, I'll make this I probably in different colors. Okay. So that you'll understand it in a better way. Okay, I'm gonna take this color. Sorry. Okay, this one. I'm gonna take I. So I'm gonna initialize this I. Okay, got it now. Observe it. So this is the constructor, a parameterized constructor. Okay. Ultimately, you already know the meaning of constructor, how, what parameterized constructor, everything. So now observe this program thoroughly. Okay, I have a class and I have a final data member. Okay. Again, I'm telling you this. You should know it's a non-static. It's a non-static data member. It's called non-static final. Okay, non-static rather than calling it a non-static final. Sorry, non-static constant. We call it as non-static constant. Non-static constant because it is final. Hence, I call it as constant. Okay, it's non-static to constant. So now, if I really wish to create an object out of this class, now I have to create an object like this. House h1 equal to new house. I have to pass how many number of rooms that you want. All right. So you want 4 rooms. Let's say you want to pass the value called 4 into this, right? So I'm passing the data called 4. So what is the data that I'm passing? Argument that I'm passing 4. So what's the value of I? 4. I is initialized to whom? An R, right? If you closely observe this line of code, what exactly happening here is H1 is a reference which is referring to an object which is there in the heap memory, right? One object is there in the heap memory. It's an object of which class? It's an object of house class, right? At this point of time, when an object is created, observe this line is object creation, right? When I say new of house, I'm creating an object. Also, I'm passing an argument into this. So object is created. At this time, the constant called NOR is created. Observe carefully. Now, observe. NOR, number of room is created. Yes, but I'm initializing it because I'm passing it here. So I'm initializing this, right? What is the value that we are initializing this to? 4. It means to say you have a constant which is initialized at the time of creation. This is the point which I had given somewhere here. So your any final data member has to be created while creation of object. Also, yes, observe this point very clearly. Observe this point. Observe this point. It has to be initialized at the time of object creation. How you create an object, that's up to you. All right. So here, what am I doing? I'm making this constructor to be executed while creation of object. So hence, inside the constructor, I'm doing it. This is the second way of initialization. Are you clear? Are you clear with this? Everyone are able to hear me, no? Super. I hope I explained in a simple way, right? Okay, fine. Thank you. Now, the last one, the third one, okay? Let's move on. The third one is by using, what is the third one? By using instance block, which I have already explained through Eclipse, but I'll write and explain now by using instance block. Okay, quickly, let's write the program. I'm going to have a class, right? Same old class called house. Okay, here I'm going to create a final data member, final integer number of rooms, but I'm not going to initialize. I'm only declaring a data member, okay, but I'm not initializing. Now what do? I initialize it by using a block. Please observe this is non-static block, okay. I'm initializing it by using a non-static block. So this is the start of the class, end of these. This is the start of this block, end of this block. Okay, this is called non-static block. So what I'm going to do here is I'm initializing this number of rooms, let's say equal to 2. I'm initializing the number of rooms to 2. But the problem here is that it's always fixed. This data is always fixed here. Okay, it's not going to change. All right, so now observe. What is the meaning of this non-static block? A non-static block is also called as instance block, and the instance block gets executed. The instance block gets executed while creation of object. I'll repeat, an instance block gets executed while creation of object. So now I'm going to create an object, all right? So like this, house h1 equal to new house. So I'm creating an object. Now you're calling a default constructor, all right? So here, it's if you observe closely, I'm calling a default constructor. So I'm calling a default constructor, I'm creating an object. The moment you call this constructor, an object gets created. While creating an object, at that time, your instance block. This is called as what? Instance block. purposefully I'm writing it in light color so that it should not disturb your code, okay? But also equally you should understand it, right? I'm creating an instance block here, and that is going to be executed when you create an object, right? So now what is h1 then? H1 is a reference which refers to an object. An object gets created in the heap area. An object gets created. When an object gets created, object of house class is created in the heap area. At this time, we know that variable is also created or constant is also created, which is non-static. Very important, which is non-static. Okay, so non-static is created, and that is initialized to a value called 2. It's initialized to a value called 2. All right. Similarly, I'm going to create one more object like this. Let's say I create h7 objects. Okay, 7 objects. House h1 equal to house h7 equal to new house. Like this, I create multiple objects. Okay. Now h7 is a reference which refers to, again, it refers to object. So like this, multiple objects are there. Now the seventh object is also there. Seventh object of which class? House class. Here, the number of variable is going to be created. The value is going to be 2 for this. So in the message box, ping me totally how many copies of this variable called number. I don't call it as a variable, sorry. I call it as a data member, okay? How many copies of this data member? I call it as a data member, okay? How many copies of the data member called number of rooms, NOR, is created in the memory? How many copies is created in the memory? Please answer. Someone is telling one, seven copy. Someone is telling six. How six here? Seven. 1 to 7, 7 copies. Someone is telling 2. No, it is not 2. Okay, I have written only 2, but observe here dot 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 means multiple. Like this, multiple objects are created. So number of copies of this data depends on number of object. That's the beauty about this non-static. Okay, this is a data member constant. So data member nothing but constant. This is a data member nothing but constant, and this is non-static. This is non-static, okay? Remember, since it is non-static, the number of copies are multiple. If it was static, only one copy would have created in the memory. I hope you understood now. Yes, Sanjeev is answering it depends on object. Perfectly correct. Correct. Prem Kumar also answering number of object depends on number of object. Mukul Sharma again wrong. He is telling one. Mukul, if it is static, then it is only one. If it is non-static, it depends on number of object. Okay, Mukul? Okay, cool, good. Yes, 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 yes. Sanjeev is asking, is there any default value for final variable? Usually, no. You have to initialize, Sanjeev. You have to initialize that either at the time of declaration, or you can initialize to 0 if you wish, but you have to initialize. So final data member has to be initialized explicitly. You have to initialize it explicitly. Yes, number of Mukul Sharma, the number of copies of each instance data member depends on the number of object. Correct. Okay, good. So we have understood what is the final non-static data member. All right, final non-static data member. That's what we started our discussion. So I said that constant means final, right? And after that, I just said that what are the different ways of initialization, right? These are all the examples that I had given, right? Now let's talk about final date. Final. Now we're going to talk about, okay, now static final, right? Static final integer I equal to, let's say, 33. right? Whatever we discussed till now is only about this final integer I equal to 20. This is what we already discussed, right? I have discussed it. Super, done. Now we have to discuss what is the meaning of static final data member. So both are data members, okay? So it's just like this, okay? If I create something like this, okay? I have final data member. So final data member. I have final data member. Now in final data member, there are two things, okay? In final data member, there are two things. What are the two final data members? Option number one, option number one, option number two. Okay, the option number one says it's static. Again, this one non-static. Okay, so you have to know that final data member means it is Sapna Chaudhary, welcome. Please keep your microphone muted. So here final data member means what? Constant. Okay, two types of constant. One is called static constant, another one is called non-static constant. Okay, now what do you mean by static constant? What do you mean by static constant? Okay, now listen. Static constant means, static means what? Only one copy is created, right? It's called, actually this is called as global constant. Okay, listen, global or universal constant. This is important to interface. Okay, global or universal constant. This is called object constant. This is called object constant. This is called global or universal constant. Let's understand these two things right now. Understood? Any questions as of now? I'll have to explain what is the meaning of this global constant, which is used in, in fact, right? Okay. This global constant is used in interface. Let's see to it. Please don't talk. Now, I'll give you one example here. What example I'll give you? Okay. Think about a scenario in a class. The same example that I had given for previous batch, and I would like to give the same example here again. Okay. In a class, there are few students. Student 1, student 2, student 3, student 4. Try to understand this example, okay? How many students are there right now? 4 students are there. Okay, blue, gazelle-eyed girl. This, gazelle-eyed girl. Okay, enough. So 4 students are there. Observe. So here they have properties like name, okay, so name, there are many properties, name, age, and blah 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 blah. Also similarly, there is one property called date of birth. Date of birth, date of birth, date of birth. Here also we have something called date of birth. Okay, they all are the property. Let's assume date of birth of this girl is, let's say, 17th January, right? Date of birth, this person is like 27th of February. Date of birth, this is 8th of August. And the date of birth of this girl is, let's say, something, I don't know, 24th of December. Okay. Now observe. Also, there is a variable called age, 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 and age, right? Please observe this, concentrate. The age of this student is 17, the age of this is 12, the age is 21, the age is only 6, right? These are all okay. Now apply common sense and tell me, which is variable, which is constant here. You know the meaning of variable? Variable means something which varies, which changes. That's called variable. Something which does not change, that's called constant, correct? What is variable here? Age. Age is it does the age is fixed for everyone? No, it changes. Hence, this is called variable, 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 because age changes. What is constant then? Date of birth is constant, constant, constant. Date of birth is constant here. So what I'm trying to explain out of this is here, okay, here, this is fixed, this is fixed, this is fixed, and this is fixed. It means to say it is constant. But the value is different for, this is important. This is important, okay? The value is fixed. Value is fixed for one object, but value is different for a different object. So it is a constant. It's a constant means what? Value cannot be changed. So, but that value is fixed for one object. Observe here the value is 17th Jan, but here the value is not 17th Jan, it is 27th February. Value of this object is different. The value of this object is different. The value of these four objects is different. But once it is created for one object, it's not going to be changed. Such data, such constant is called as what? Object constant. What do you mean by object constant? So the data member does not change. That is the meaning of constant. And the data is different for a different object. For every object, once it is fixed, once it is created, then it is fixed. Okay. The constant which is specific to the object, right? The constant which is very specific to this object is called as object constant. This is called object constant. Are you clear now? So we declare this by using a final date of birth is, let's say, a string final date of birth, just like this. And we initialize this either by using constructor, or obviously since the data are different here, we have to initialize by using constructor. And initialize using constructor. So I hope you understood what is the meaning of object constant, right? This is called object constant. Now, this is one scenario number one over. Then what do you mean by the second one, sir? That is global constant or universal constant. We understood what is the meaning of object constant. Okay, whatever we discussed till now, it's basically the object constant, right? It's just like this. We discussed about this object constant, which is nothing but a date of birth. Now we'll have to discuss about universal constant. Before I move on to the universal constant, so tell me if you have any questions related to this object constant. Any questions? You understood properly? Did you understand? No doubts. Super. Okay, good. See, I think Like in IPL, no? So for every in IPL game, okay, in IPL matches, so for every 6 and 4, they play one music with ta 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 ta, one music, no? So for every concept that I cover, so I need that kind of music and one dance, okay, for cheer up, so that I can, like, with the Josh, I can move on to the next topic. Huh? So it does not mean that you unmute and play that, okay? Don't do that, please. Okay, now. Oh, okay, thank you. Pachi, tan tana tana tana, good. Thank you very much. Okay, fine, fine. Let's move on. Okay, let's move on. We don't have much time now. Let's move on to the next concept. What is that? Universal constant. Let's understand what do you mean by that universal constant now. Universal, or it's also called as global constant. What do you mean by this universal constant or global constant? Pretty simple. It's a constant, firstly. It's also a constant. Means the value cannot be changed, right? Value, you cannot change the value. Value cannot be changed. That's the meaning of constant, right? So obviously, if you don't want a value to be changed, you have to make it as final programmatically, right? So now what do you mean by universal or global? Very, very simple. Universal or global means it should be static. It must be static. Sir, what do you mean by static? Only one copy. Only one copy. Now, let me give you an example. Same old example. Let's take. I have 4 students. I have 4 students. These 4 students may have different date of birth, right? Different age, different name, blah, 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 right? Different date of birth, different name, and different age. I don't mind. Now observe, though they all are different, focus here, though they all are different, they all have, now observe, they all have three, oh, I'm supposed to select this pen, pi. So, there is something called pi 3.142, blah, 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 blah. This is one constant, right? Does this value change or is it constant? So this is a constant. This is a constant, right? This is a constant. And this constant, observe, is common for all of them. It's common for all of them, right? It's common for all, common for this fellow, common for this fellow, common for this, common for this. Is there anything called, hey, first student, your pi is 8.4, okay? Your pi is 0.21, okay? Your pi is 108 point something like this, 4, and your pi is going to be 38.2. Is there anything called different pies? Never. The pi is common for everyone, right? The pi value is same for this fellow, same for this fellow, same for this fellow, it is same, and for this fellow also it is same. So what I'm trying to explain out of this is the value is same for all the different objects. So here object does not really matter. We don't care about the object here. Such a constant which does not care about object, so it should be non-object. Non-object means what? Non-object means it must be, non-object means it must be static. Static means only one copy. Yes, we have only one pi, which is universal. So it should be static. Static means what? Only one copy. Are you clear? Such constants. I declare that like this: static, static, double, static double, pi value is 3.142. This is universal. Universal constant. Okay, basically a non-static. Oh, I missed this double now. Or sorry, I missed this final. I'll write it here. Okay, I just say final, static final. Final is important. Okay, we cannot forget final. So static only one copy. Final means constant. Okay, the constant which is only one copy, that's called as what? Universal constant. Since it is universal, it should be accessible for everyone. I repeat, since it is universal, it must be accessible for everyone. Hence, we make it as public. Hence, we make it as public. So this is called universal constant. Got it now? Hmm. These are all the two types of constants which we decide. Okay, static means the global one, the non-static means object specific, but both are constants, hence both are all final data member. Observe now, this is just a final data member which is non-static, and this is the last one which is static. I think I'm done now. Understood? This is important. This is important. This universal constant is important in case of, especially in case of interface. Yes, someone is asking, is there any keyword to make only one copy? Yes, that's static. That's static. No, except static, no, there is no keyword. Okay, Tom Cruise is asking, can you give me one more example, sir? Yeah, I can explain with one more example. Just last example, okay? Try to understand it. Let's say there is a game, some small game. So player one is there, player two is there, running race game, okay? Player four, player five. It's a running race game, okay? Running race game. All right, selection and movement is not possible here. I'll have to explain by using paint in that case. Selection and movement, I'm not sure whether that option is present here or not. I don't know. No, that option is not available here. Sorry, I'll have to explain. What is this? Oh, is it? Hey, sorry. Let me try to explain this, okay? Where is that move? Yes. Mhm. Okay, let me select it. Hold on. Let me see. Now there is a running race. Everyone started running. Okay, everyone started running now. This fellow, hey, it is available. Yes, this fellow started running. Right, like that. Everyone started running now. This fellow also started running. This fellow also started running. When this fellow started running, he had taken 2 bottles of beer. He is running like a mad dog now. Okay. So again, this fellow is also running, but this fellow is little slow. This bugger is very, very slow. Slowly is running. This fellow is very lazy. He's not even started only. He's just walking. Okay, he's not running. He's just walking. Imagine that this fellow is walking. So we have multiple players. If you observe here, we have multiple players. Okay. Sorry. Here, this is called. Uh-oh. Lost it. Okay. This is called player one. This is called player 2, this is called player 3, and player 4. 4 players started running race, okay? But somewhere we need a time which is to be common, right? Common. Time is somewhere, stopwatch is there, or somewhere the time is there, which is common. Time, stopwatch, right? It's very common for everyone. So this is only one for which is applicable for this person, which is applicable for him, which is applicable for him or her, whoever it is applicable for this person. So this common time is called as static. Right? If you don't want this time to be changed, then make it as final. But you want it to be available for everyone, make it as static. Right? But player ID, player name, these are all different for different, hence they are non-static. Okay. But this time, which is common for all, make it as static. Let's say 0, 1 minute, 30 seconds, something like this, which is common for everyone. Okay. I hope now you guys understood this. Ooh. I tried explaining this. Okay. What's his name? Tom Cruise. Understood? Everyone understood this? So in this today's discussion, we learned about final data member and what is the meaning of a final static data member and final non-static data member. Okay, it's very simple. So ask me if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'm done. Yes, that's it. Conclusion is this. Gaurav Jain is asking. Sir, conclusion is that non-static means we can have multiple copies, but static means only one copy. Yes. So value, whether can we change the value or not, is decided based on final. Number of copies is decided by static. Got it? That's it. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.